Anais, Anais, the tender essence of a woman's dream. And now the enchantment continues with an exclusive holiday bonus. La Petite Fleur, a special edition eau de toilette spray in an enchanting floral canister. La Petite Fleur, your gift from Anais this Christmas with any $12.50 Anais purchase.
Available now at Cox's in Westview Village.
Hey, Bert, open that bag.
I gotta leave room for the tie, Charlie.
Open it.
Okay, but it'll never close.
It's a new hefty cinch sack. They have a drawstring that closes at the top, so you can fill it to the top.
It closed.
New hefty cinch sack tall kitchen bags have a drawstring, too. Just one quick pull closes, lifts, and carries.
Oh, looks easy.
It's a cinch.
Yeah. Oh.
New hefty cinch sack closes at the top, so you can fill it to the top.
Here at Fort Hood Nashville, we've been having a great time unpacking the Sony products to conduct our incredible CD Sony offer. You can have your very own Sony, plus earn interest on your money when you invest in a certificate of deposit. So stop by for full details, and we'll put you a step ahead financially.
You'll be banking a better way as a step ahead bank.
Fort Hood National Bank on Hood Road and Clear Creek Road next to the PX. Member FDIC.
Weekdays, catch Press Your Luck. It's fun. Right. It's wacky. It's wild. So join host Peter Tamarkin as contestants press their luck for fabulous prizes and Press Your Luck. Weekdays.
Hello, Americans. I'm Paul Harvey, inviting you to rendezvous with me right here on KWTX-TV, Region 10 Television, the #1 professionals.
KWTX-TV in Waco, Channel 10. This is a Region 10 News special report.
I'm John Carroll. Tonight's torrential rainfall in the Waco area has caused widespread flooding, property damage, and at least one death. The rain has fallen almost without interruption since early this evening. Area creeks and ditches have overflowed, storm drains have backed up, motorists have been stranded, and at least one Waco resident has been killed when the roof of a South Waco bar collapsed tonight. We'll recap the events of the evening later on in just a minute, but first we'll turn to weatherman Roy Cook. Roy, what's happening with the weather conditions right now?
John, the rain activity around the area continues, although it's not quite as heavy as it was earlier, but I see indications where more thunderstorms could be forming up to the southwest. What you see back here now is as it looked earlier this evening. This is a video taken out in the field with the high water. And, of course, the rainfall reports around the area were varied and normally would be in a situation like this. The official total out of the Waco airport was a little more than 1.5 inches, but here at the station we picked up about 3.5 inches, and totals through the city varied between 3 to 4.5 inches. Belmead reported 4.5 inches, so the high water certainly was throughout the Waco area. McLennan County also, northern Bell County, McLennan County, southeastern Hill County, all through Navarro County, Limestone, and Falls counties. If you can now, the radar, and that depicts right now where the heaviest of the rains are. Now, it's not raining all that heavy in the Waco area, although right in here just southwest of Waco, see this red area? That is more moderate to occasionally heavy rain, and that is moving on in. These rains up in to the northwest are in there just to the east of China Spring. They are moving on northeast toward west, and here are other heavy rains back in here east of west. And Marlin right now, they're primarily north of Marlin for any rainfall of any consequence, but look back here toward Killeen, Coppers Cove, and back toward Lampasas. These showers and thunderstorms seem to be increasing as they move toward the northeast following the wind aloft. So the flash flood warning for the counties of Bell, McLennan, Hill, over here to Limestone and Falls, and Navarro counties, all those till midnight. And yes, they should continue to be under those warnings until that time. The runoff, of course, continuing from those rains earlier this evening. The watch, meaning the possibility of additional big thunderstorms through the night, is still in effect. Flash flood watch throughout this area until early morning. Well, here's our 5-state map this evening, and what we have the problem with is a little wind shift here at the surface, a trough of low pressure. We have this advancing Arctic front from the north. The winds are aloft from the southwest, so it's almost a classic situation for flash flooding. Very heavy thunderstorms and slow moving, And once they form, they move very off to the northeast, and they tend to move pretty slowly down here in this central section of the state. They're a little faster movement on the northeast Texas. So the worst of the flooding has been in through the Waco area and on up toward Corsicana and on in toward Dallas and northeast of Dallas, east of McKinney. And the showers and thunderstorms continue to generate back in the hill country northwest of Austin to move northeastward. Another feature that has aided in the big thunderstorms is the warm, humid air, the temperatures in the 70s to the south of this wind shift. Then we're in the 60s, and then we fall rapidly off into the 20s and 30s to the north of that cold front tonight. These temperatures are the highest for the day. Haven't really changed much from central Texas southward this evening. Well, nationally, the Arctic front is positioned into North Texas, but it's primarily pushing east rather than south. It has made a nice dive into North Texas today, but that's just temporary. I think that part will begin to slow down, and this part will begin to race on off to the east. And we had 3 dozen record high temperatures today in the east sections of the country, low 60s up into Boston, and that contrasts, of course, with this colder air coming down. And it just happens that everything is together right here in central Texas for those big storms. Well, tomorrow, I would expect the most rain to move on northeast. Now, this will be after this Arctic front drifts on to the south of the region. And as that happens, we're going to be in a cold, occasional rainy type situation. The heavier rains on northeast. And Wednesday, showers should taper off, but it'll still be cloudy around the area. And we're going to take you through the sequence of maps for the low and high temperatures for these next 2 days, or at least for tomorrow. Should be about 45, 48 in the morning for our lowest temperature. Very cold up in Montana, 25 below. Up in the northern section of that state, it's 34 below at Havre, Montana this morning. Then those highs tomorrow still be in single digits in northern plains while we get into the 50s. We won't get that deep into the Arctic air, but deep enough to at least settle down these rains somewhat. So all that just to tell you that the thunderstorm chances are still good tonight. Flash flood warnings for the Waco area will stay in effect until midnight. The watch throughout the night, additional thunderstorms are possible, but tomorrow just be a less intense rain and cooler temperatures. And we'll check a little more a little later. Here's John.
Okay, thank you, Roy. The situation isn't too good right now, is it?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll check back with you later on, probably. The most serious weather-related tragedy of the night occurred at 2023 Spate Avenue in Waco, where the roof of a Mi Ranchito bar collapsed, killing one man and injuring another. Waco police say about a dozen people were inside the bar when the roof began to collapse. 2 people failed to escape. One was struck on the head by falling debris, and the other was killed. Waco Fire Department crews worked feverishly to sift through the fallen debris, believing there might be more people inside. But once heavy moving equipment was brought in to lift the fallen roof, police and firemen called off the search. The torrential rainfall that has hit the central Texas area tonight will be keeping law enforcement agencies and rescue units busy for a good portion of the remainder of this night. Here in Waco at this hour, police are investigating the flooded area in and around Orchard Lane, where it's reported that an undetermined number of vehicles are stalled. Police say at this time they believe some people are stranded in the Orchard Lane area. Meanwhile, the McLennan County Sheriff's Department reports tonight that traffic has been rerouted in at least 2 locations in the Waco area. Traffic north and southbound on Interstate 35 through Robinson has been rerouted onto the access roads. Another area, University Parks Drive and South 3rd Street Road in Waco, has been called impassable. There, too, an undetermined number of cars are stalled. Throughout all of this latest rainfall, no other deaths or injuries have been reported in the Waco area. So reporter David Porter is just back in from home or moving out around from some of the low flooded areas in the eastern part of the metropolitan area. Their low areas are flooded. Cars again have been stranded. 8 inches of Waco have accumulated alone on Waco streets and Waco Drive. At the Village Square apartment complex, the currents at this time have carried off a small car. The driver escaped without injury, though. On the Baylor campus, the water level is high. Out of course, they're rather out of the courses there. The students are gone for the weekend. But, David, what does it look like right now in the Baylor area as well?
John, the area is very flooded. We were riding around, my cameraman and I, tonight, and the Waco Creek is as high as I've ever seen. In fact, higher than I've ever seen it. The 5th Street Bridge there is almost to the top of the 5th Street Bridge. We saw a lot of flooding, mainly in the low areas. In Lacey Lakeview, we talked with the Lacey Lakeview Police Department. Several streets have been closed right there in front of the municipal building. Several homes are flooded at this time, and they're trying to rescue the people out of those homes.
Did you notice any people in stranded cars trying to get out?
We saw a lot of people in stranded cars. In fact, we became stranded at one point tonight. We were able to get out through the ingenious work of our photographer, Dan Maloney. But There are trucks. There are some high school students we saw out helping the people right now as cars are stuck in the low areas.
Okay, you have some video, I believe, and here we are looking at it. Could you describe a little bit of this video and where it was, maybe, if you can remember?
Okay. Right now, this is some of the area in Waco that we saw this evening. Like I said, the Waco Park has been very high, and on 36th Street, one home there was flooded, and we saw the family standing on the front porch. They looked safe, but their home was flooded partially.
Okay, thank you, David. I know you're shaking, not because you're nervous, but because you're cold, and I appreciate
am freezing and soaking.
Okay, thank you for coming in. Also, reporter Barry Ray has probably seen more of the weather tonight than any of us. Earlier, he was at South Waco, where the roof of a bar caved in. Now he is at the Londonderry addition, where flooding is heavy. Barry, what's the situation out there at this time?
As best as we can tell, John, some of the most severe flooding in the Waco area occurred here behind the DePaul Center at the corner of Londonderry and Oxford Streets. And we came upon the scene here and found a couple of cars had trouble through this area. One Suburban, which you may see directly behind me, made it through the heaviest portion of the water and then just gave out. And that was a four-wheel drive vehicle. So you can see that the flooding here was much too high for any vehicle to get through, and that's why Waco police came and cordoned off this area with their police tape earlier to keep all cars from moving through this area. With me now is Keith Rice. He lives in the home here on the corner of Oxford and Londonderry, and as I understand it, Mr. Rice, you were the one who called the police over here.
Well, it's not exactly correct. What happened was the police officer's car was getting underwater, so there was no police officer around it. So I called the station to let the police officer know that he wasn't going to have a car very long if it was going to stay underwater.
All right, as you told me before, the water was much higher a few minutes ago than it is right now here at this corner.
Definitely was. It was about 3 or 4 foot higher than what it is here right now.
And it did come up into your yard. I guess you were a little scared for a while as to whether or not it might get inside your home.
I sure did, because it was coming up so fast that I had to stay out of here. I put a stick out by the driveway to make an indicator as to where the water level was, and as you've seen before, it's went down quite a bit since then.
And you saw the Suburban get stalled out in the water over there. What was the situation there?
Well, he basically thought he could navigate it because it sounded like he tried to put it in the low gear on four-wheel drive, but it just didn't seem to make it over there.
All right, and almost ominously, John, the rain is starting up again. We're soaked to the bone, and it could drive these waters up even higher over here, and they're already approaching some of the buildings at the DePaul Center. Most of the homes in the Londonderry addition are high enough that the water didn't get into them, and I'm sure the residents are very happy about that.
Okay, Barry, I appreciate you standing out there in that rain. I noticed you don't have an umbrella, but when you're soaked, who needs one, huh?
Right.
Let's turn to the man who knows whether it's going to continue to rain. We've asked him before. Roy, we already heard just a few moments ago from one man out there in Londonderry that the water seemed to him at least to be going down. Is that the case?
Yes, the water that has fallen earlier this evening certainly is going down. Our problem will be additional rainfall on top of what we've had, of course. And that is the reason that we have the flash flood watch for the remainder of tonight. The flash flood warning is to certainly cover the water that is now there and still receding, still dangerous, of course, in many areas. Radar right now shows what we are watching, and that is the development of more thunderstorms back in here off to the southwest. So you saw this a moment ago, back out here around Killeen, Copper's Cove, and expanding on up toward Gatesville now and developing back toward Lampasas. And these are caught up in the winds aloft, which will move on to the northeast. So it is quite possible to be additional heavy showers and thunderstorms for the Waco area later on tonight. Right now, rain in Waco not as heavy as it was earlier this evening, but it is moderate at times. And here it is on up 35 up in there to the west of West now and on between Waco and West. And here's more on as we move on up toward Hubbard. So that is moving to the northeast. And additional action southwest is moving northeast. So for McLennan County, for Bell County, and here it would be Hill County, and over here around Limestone County and for Falls County and for Numero County up around Corsicana. Those counties all with the flash flood warnings until midnight. That's to take care of the water now that has fallen. Flash flood watch will continue in effect through the night for all the area. But once we get into the cooler air from the Arctic front, which will arrive early in the morning, the rains tomorrow will not be as intense, but they will be kind of a steady light rain. And that the intensity of these rains will settle down a bit, and that'll keep us from the flood problems. John?
Okay, Roy, your warning to the motorist, especially right now, and even in the morning when they get ready to go to work tomorrow morning.
Well, don't try crossing any water areas unless you know exactly how deep that water is, and you probably will not know. So if it looks bad, stay away from it.
Okay, Roy, I know you have to drive away yourself, so be careful tonight.
You bet.
Thank you very much. Roy Cook telling us exactly what we're to expect weather-wise, and of course, David Porter was with us. Barry Ray on the scene as well out in Waco to see the flooding conditions. The flooding conditions in Waco have probably caused at 2023 Spate Street in the city of Waco. That's pretty much our report tonight. We thank you for joining us. Good evening.
This has been a Region 10 News special report.
New Pillsbury's best sweet rolls. Loaded with real apple or swirled with lots of cinnamon. Apple